Good day, everybody. My name is Paul Harrington. I'm your host today, and today we have our guest speaker, Don Warkentin, who is going to be speaking on appliance insights. So, Don, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Introduce myself. I'm Don Warkentin. I've worked at Decor Cabinets for 30 years now. I've been doing AutoCAD drawings is what I started out as, and then I went into bill of materials programming in our software. I helped out with our new ERP system that's coming for a few years, and now I moved into this new role where I'm back to doing drawings, and specifically for appliances and helping figure those things out and making sure that we get the cabinets right so that everything works.
Nice. Yeah, so before you jump in and get into your presentation, I just want to go over a couple housekeeping. First thing, if you have any questions, please send them our way. You can just use the chat on the right-hand screen, and we'll get any questions answered that you shoot our way. So there's that. And then before, also, I just want to mention the Elite Design Awards. I know that we've had a lot of submissions already, but this is the last week to submit them. So you want to get those submitted by the end of the week, Friday on the 26th. And then also, we have a couple of spots left for the XP, which is in October. And so if you're thinking about signing up, you want to get those sign-ups in as well. So, yeah. So anyways, Don, why don't you take it away, and we'll go from here.
All right. Well, it's really informal for me. I don't have a script. I just have pictures that I'm going to talk about. And most importantly, if you have questions, don't forget to submit those and we can answer them live right here. So I'm just going to dive right into the first picture here. When it comes to appliances, there's terminology that's used. Whether you're doing overlay frame in the Decor line, or if you're doing inset frames in the Decor line or in the Zona Vita line. There's also the term flush install that people use, which sometimes I think is misunderstood. When you're using an inset frame, some people can think that that's a flush install. And if you're using the correct appliance, like a Mealy or a Wolf appliance, it certainly does look like it's a flush install because the doors on those appliances are really thin. The picture that you see on the screen right now has a double wall oven in it, has a warming drawer in it, and it has a microwave drawer in it. It also has a cooktop and a hood vent. So we're encompassing quite a few things here. The double oven and warming drawer is using an inset frame, and the reason I can tell that is because the reveals are all very tight. It's also a Wolf appliance, which allows for very tight appliance reveals. The warming drawer always asks for a little more because of venting and expelling heat. Same thing with the microwave drawer. You can see there's a little gap at the top and there's a little gap at the bottom. On that Sharp appliance microwave drawer, it has that flip down console where you actually pull it out and you get all the buttons on there. They do give a reveal that's specific for that at the top of the microwave, which is about 7/16 of an inch. I do know that we have designers that prefer more. And so if those are the kinds of things that you experience and you want us to know, then by all means, send me a note, either an email or give me a phone call and say, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And I can take note of that and then try and make sure that the next time I do a drawing for you, I get it right. Cooktops, haven't done a lot of drawings for cooktops The one that you see there is actually a base cooktop cabinet. So the top drawer front is just a false front. Basically, what we're doing there is we're making sure that it fits within the cabinet that you need. Yeah. Actually, in all of these, we're making sure that it fits in the cabinet that you need. And I will always, if I do see something that isn't quite right, especially when it comes to reveals, I will send back either through the CSR or if I'm talking with you directly, I will make a recommendation of what we should do. That brings me into the little thing that Paul asked me, you know, did I want music playing or what do I want going on when we do this? And I told him, well, of course you have to tell me what you want, what you really, really want. You know, if you are familiar with the phrase, it's a song by Spice Girls, but it was actually a song I learned in Crucial Conversations. That was used there, and I've been using it ever since because it's always difficult to know what people want if they don't tell you. So when it comes to appliances, tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Because do you want tight reveals? Do you want wide reveals? Do you want a large drawer front at the bottom, or do you not care? It doesn't have to match to anything. You know, those kinds of things. I'm gonna move on.
So before you move on to the next image, you mentioned the Sharp microwave.
Yes.
Now, one thing with the Sharp microwave, I do know that if they extend the countertop, protrude past the cabinets, that you'll want to, you know, bring your Sharp down so that you can get your fingers and stuff in there. If you're if you're just doing standard, then it should work out fine. But there's always little minute details to each and every specs that require different things.
That's a great point, Paul. Definitely, whenever, even like with the cooktops, whenever I'm making a drawing, I will use an 1.25 inch thick cooktop, or countertop, I should say, in my calculations of when I'm placing the appliance. And then I will also always bank on about a 25.5 inch deep countertop so that I know it's extending past the front of our 24-inch deep cabinet 1.5 inches. With those, the settings that Sharp gives, especially for those flip down control panels, that works perfectly. And the specs in Sharp does say that if it moves out, you have to move this down. So those are kinds of things that if you are doing something a little differently, maybe a thinner countertop, which I know has been a trend recently, or if you're making it extend further out than 1.5 inches, let me know those kinds of things, and then we can position things correctly for you. So in this picture, we've got more appliances. The wine fridge is one of the things you'll see right away. And then, of course, we have what you might think is a double oven, but it's actually 2 ovens. And then when there is a refrigerator to the left of the image. The refrigerators I typically won't provide a drawing for that, but I will do a double check. A lot of the CSRs will send me those. And they'll ask me to make sure that they got the dimensions and the sizing and everything right, especially if we're doing a Sub-Zero, where you have the spacer and the backer panel that has to go in. There's very specific reveals. And sometimes the documentation that Sub-Zero has is really, really good. Not sometimes, it is really good all the time. But it's sometimes hard to follow and understand, because there's a lot of jumping around the pages, especially with the different model numbers, whether it's an offset panel size that you're using, or if it's a flush panel size that you're using. Those are important things that I need to know. And as long as you tell me that, then see a trend going on here. then I know what I need to give you. The one thing that I have noticed, especially with doing fridges, is the toe kick space at the bottom. So a lot of the times, appliance manufacturers, when it comes to refrigerators and freezers, their spacing that they have at the bottom is typically 4 inches. Our toe kick on our cabinets is 4.5. So if you want that nice clean line going across your cabinets at the bottom, you want to make sure that you adjust those panels. Now, I will also add to that that not all appliances will allow you to adjust to a different toe kick height just because you want to. You have to really look at the notes, look at the drawings that they provide to know whether or not you can adjust that size. Because if you all of a sudden make the door too short, and you'll actually see the appliance door at the bottom rather than just blank space. The two ovens, they're put into this cabinet using an overlay frame, so they are sitting proud of the cabinet doors. The spacing on them looks like it's fairly tight, but definitely when you're putting two appliances together, you have to watch those specs as well and make sure you get the gap in between the two correct. Basically, it saves your cabinetry from heat buildup to make sure that things are going to last and that your appliance actually works correctly.
Now, when you're doing like an overlay appliance, do you check the profile that they're using as well?
Yeah.
And make sure that the appliance doesn't overlap the profile?
I was going to talk about that on the next picture, but we can talk about it here too. I'll mention it there too. That's always something to look out for when you're using an overlay frame. When you're putting those appliances in, double check what your cabinet width is and double check what your profile is. A lot of the time, the profile is a D profile or an L profile, which don't need a lot of room. But there are a lot of times when I'm asking for cabinets to be made an 1/8 or a 1/4 inch bigger because of those profiles. And then there's the odd one where we still get like an A profile or an H profile, and that hasn't been taken into consideration. And now the cabinet has to be at least a 1/2 inch or 5/8 of an inch larger because of that profile. You don't want to have that profile tucking in behind the appliance. Visually, I think it just wouldn't be appealing. Maybe you have a different point of view, but I will recommend something different if I see that happening.
Yeah. So you still have time to get questions in, so please send some questions our way. We'll get them answered here live for you. But just to elaborate a little bit more on the whole tell me what you want scenario, if the designer or the customer doesn't understand quite what to ask for, say if they're doing like the appliance, the refrigerator panels, and they don't understand the difference between the overlay and the flush inset or whatnot, like they can still reach out to you and ask you what their options are, I guess, and then
Definitely.
right.
Definitely. I actually had an instance like that just the other day, where a designer emailed me and said, I have this appliance. I don't know what cabinet to use. Should I use an inset frame or should I be using an overlay frame? They gave me a size of the cabinet that they want to use. It happened to be a 36-inch wide base cabinet with a wall oven being put into it, so it was just one frame. The overlay frame was really nice for that because it gave nice reveals all the way around, and you could go 36 inches wide and it wouldn't look out of place. But then to draw that same thing with an inset frame, now you have a lot of inset frame pieces that are being revealed, which aesthetically I don't think is as pleasing, because now you see the joint between the cabinet side and the inset frame pieces. And if you have a really wide cabinet, you're going to see all of that. And so what I did is I actually drew that cabinet at 30 inches, so it just fit the appliance instead of the 36, just to show the different look of what it's going to be. But definitely, if you have questions like that, send me an email, and I'll have the contact information for myself at the end of the presentation today, and ask those questions. To talk about, tell me what you want. I love it when I get notes on a cabinet and it tells me this is the model number that you need to use, and it has all the default entries for all the overrides that are in the cabinet, and I'm looking at it and going, okay, I know I can do this different because I've seen this appliance before. And then there's a little note that says minimal reveals all around, and I'm like, yes, I can do that. Because now I know it doesn't matter what size the drawer front is. It doesn't matter, about any of that. I can just make it work. Go to the next one. So here's,
Bear with us 1 minute. We're gonna fix the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so it looks like we're back up and running. Don, take it away.
so on this picture, I put this one in because this is where I was going to talk about edge profiles and reveals. But this one is also an overlay frame. But here you see, and a lot of the time, I'll get asked to fit appliances into a cabinet, but it's just barely big enough, and the edge profiles are not taken into consideration, or maybe what it's going to look like just hasn't been thought about. This one has probably a D profile. Actually, it's an MDF 875, so it's probably an L profile. But the cabinet's been made larger, and the spacing at the bottom, middle, and top have been made wide enough so that it looks equal all the way around. When I'm doing an overlay frame, if you're not telling me what you want, then I will probably draw it just like this. I will even things out, and to me, I love lines that are linear, so it all has to look equal. Even when I was making this PowerPoint presentation, I tried to line up all my pictures so that when I move from one slide to the next, you don't see it jump around. Just a little bit of OCD that I have. But yeah, so that's overlay frames. Also on the left of this picture, you see there's a wine fridge, and it's a frame as well. Those ones are typically pretty easy. Depending on what you're using and the door style that you're using, it may require specific style and rail widths, which a lot of the time means that it has to be a special. The other thing to look out for on wine fridges is there are times when there's special routing required on the back of the panel in order to attach it to the door of your appliance. Those are the kinds of things that if you don't tell us, then we have to come back and ask you, do you want all this routing done, or are you going to be doing that yourself on site? I understand that not all things are the easiest when you're doing it on site. So knowing those things ahead of time can save us the trouble of getting it wrong, save you and the installer the trouble of trying to figure it out on site. I don't remember what my next picture is. Oh yeah. This one, I found this picture and was really surprised at it. So with the oven that's there, and you notice there's a cooktop, the biggest problem with putting a cooktop over a built-in oven is space. A lot of the time when you do a cooktop and a built-in oven, you have to adjust the toe kick in order to make things fit, because each appliance requires its specific ventilation spaces that it needs to have in order to make it work. The designer on this one, and I don't know who it was, but they took the idea and extended their frame all the way to the floor, eliminating the toe kick, which totally eliminates the problem of, oh, there's a 4.5-inch toe kick over there and there's only a 3-inch toe kick over there because the oven needs that much room. Just run it all the way down to the floor, do a flush toe kick, and it looks great. The other thing that I've noticed with induction cooktops coming in and people starting to use those more often, they use less room, which is really, really nice. So then you can fit things better within your base cabinet.
Yeah, one thing I would say, like if you're doing both a cooktop with a built-in oven, that you want to make sure that you're picking them from the same supplier or manufacturer.
Same manufacturer.
Because that's when we can really be able to tell if they can go together. Different manufacturers or suppliers will actually say, you know, which ones work with each other and which ones don't. Just from you know, I guess like functional view. I guess
It'll be what they've tested.
Yep.
A lot of them have documentation that comes with either their spec page or their installation page, and it actually gives you model numbers and which ones work together with each other. So that's really handy. It makes it a little trying when they are not from the same manufacturer and now you want to try and fit them together. So now you have to look at specs on both appliances and make sure things are correct and you get the spacing correct. Gas appliances are really difficult because it says it needs this much room, but then there's always more room needed because of the gas connection that comes off the bottom of the cooktop. So you really got to watch out for those kinds of things. Speaking of space at the back, cutout depth is always different than what the depth of the appliance is, and typically they're specifying a depth based on the electrical, whether it's going to be a proud electrical box that you're plugging into or if it's a recessed box. And some may even say, don't put the electrical behind the appliance, put it next to the appliance. So then you want to put it into the cabinet next to it. And if you have drawers in there, you'll want to do a drawer depth decrease.
Right.
Or if you're doing like a base microwave with a drawer underneath it, you put the electrical behind the drawer down below, but do the drawer depth decrease. Again, those are all things that are nice to know when I'm doing up the drawing for you so that we can get it right and we have that space.
So one more thing with this this picture here, I'm assuming that because the toe kick is lower, right, that they probably did a finish left and finish right. Would that be something that you check and look out for, or is that something that you leave to the designer?
Like this one, especially with the frame coming down, I would imagine, I don't know what the job was, so I didn't go back and try to research what they did, but I imagine that they would have done a flush toe base and made it shorter. That way the sides run all the way to the front, all the way to the floor. And then when you're attaching that frame, it's covered and you don't have holes on the sides where that toe kick runs into the sides of that cabinet. This allows you to make it smaller, the toe kick, and it closes off those holes and cleans it up. So yeah, you would want finished sides on that then, so that everything matches and you don't all of a sudden have white or nat maple melon popping out at you in the corners.
Yep.
You'll notice too on the right side of this picture, there's another refrigerator there. It has the refrigerator specific handles attached to it, but you notice how the doors are really tight. The gaps on them look just like they do on the cabinet doors of the rest of your kitchen. This would be considered a flush install. Those are things just to look out for. Typically, an overlay install on panels on a refrigerator have larger reveals than everything else. I think we actually saw that up. Well, they're close together in the middle, but at the top between the grill panel and the doors, there's quite a large gap there. Whereas on this one, you can see that even between the drawer and the doors and the overlay panel at the top, that it's really tight.
You still won't get the 1/8 reveal with the flush inset, or not always. This depends on
Not
the
always.
appliance and
It
stuff,
depends
right?
on the appliance. Yeah. I'm scared. Is that the end? That's the end.
I think you missed one.
Did I?
No, it is the end.
This one, I, of course, you can see my contact information there. I showed this one to Paul and I said, "How many appliances do you see?" And he came up with
I said I saw 6.
he came up with the same number that I did. But I told him the one right in front of you on the island, I wasn't sure whether that's an appliance or whether it's a trash bin, because the handle is vertical and it's to the side of the door. So I wasn't sure if it was a dishwasher or not.
Yeah. So so this is Don's contact. So if you got any questions or want him to look over, you can reach out to him 2 ways. You can reach out to him directly, or you can go through your CSR. But really, what we want to say is that he is here to help and to provide the information. But Don, can you kind of go over like just a broad overview, like what all you can do? I know. Like when we say appliances, like what all does that entail, right? Like, is that hood cabinets? Is that fridge panels? Is that like what would you say falls under that scope?
Well, with the hood cabinets, typically those are going to the CAD department because a lot of the time they require a drawing anyhow. Production requires a drawing to build those, even though it's a standard item that you're ordering. They will typically do those drawings. I can do the hood vent cabinets as well, and especially if you've got something that you're really unsure of, shoot me the information, and then I can do up a drawing and see what's going to work, what's going to fit. Gas cooktops, I've seen not many of them, but a few, where you're mounting it on top of, say, a bank of 2 drawers. The critical thing is, what's the spacing? How much room do I need? A lot of the times I see a height being entered that's way too high, and it has to be made shorter so that your gas cooktop, because it's one big unit that you just slide in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you got to make sure you got the right height, so that it matches your countertop. So there again, countertop thickness, I will use 1.25 inches by default. If it's different, make sure you let me know. I've had requests on this picture that you see here on the right side bottom. There's 2 drawers there, but you see the toe kick is black. That's actually, and Paul and I were arguing about this one, whether it was a dishwasher or if it was a refrigerator freezer, because I've seen them both. It's either a 2-drawer dishwasher or it's a refrigerator on top and a freezer on the bottom. But those ones, the specs will say one thing as far as getting the sizing, but again, you want to watch for that toe space, whether it's 4.5 or 4 inches from the specs of the manufacturer. They typically do have the room to make them different. I actually, together with a designer, reached out to the appliance manufacturer to find out if we could make them different, because they wanted it to match the 2-drawer bank that was going beside it, and they assured us that it would be all okay and that it would work. So those are the kinds of things that I will do. I know specifications sometimes are not clear always. There are things that might seem to contradict each other. I I will make sure that I read all the documentation and make sure that we get everything correct. But there are times even then when you get the cabinet on site and you're installing the appliance and something isn't right. Let me know about those. Send me installation pictures. Send me all your remarks about what and this model number was this, and tell me what's going on, what your experience is. I would love to hear all of that, because as you learn, then I can learn as well. I don't have the appliances here to unpackage and put into a cabinet. I wish I did. But if I did, I would probably use up the whole entire production shop, because I document all the appliances that I do. And as of this morning, I did 2 brand new ones again that I had never seen before this morning. And I am now at 400 different appliances that I have seen and documented. So, and that's only since October of last year. It blows my mind really to know that there's that many appliances out there, and I'm sure I haven't seen them all yet.
So you haven't even done it in a year, and you're already up to 400. So that's pretty impressive. So, so we haven't got any questions in, but we got. I'll give you another minute or two to get the questions. So please send them our way. I just want to reiterate what Don was saying. This will work really well if we get the feedback, right? So if there's a appliance that is newer to Don, or the specs just aren't clear and we can't get the information through reaching out to the manufacturer, which we have tried, but it doesn't always work out, then essentially it'll be put on to you as a designer to make certain decisions, but then we will hope that you reach back out to Don or your CSR and let us know like how it all worked out, so that we can document that, so that in the future we will have the answers to those appliance specs. So yeah. Also, while we're waiting on some questions, again, I want to reiterate that we have the Elite Design Awards is wrapping up this week. So the 26th, which is Friday, I believe at midnight is the cutoff. So get those in. We're not extending it. That is the cutoff. And so again, we have 3 different categories. You got you have small kitchen, large kitchen, and then specialty rooms. And then from there, we're going to be doing a undeniably different, and then the people's choice from those categories. So you got many opportunities to win. The grand prize is a trip to Europe, and so yeah. So that's all I'm going to say about the Elite Design Awards. And then lastly, I want to talk about the Academy XP, which is in October. So those spots are filling up fast. We do have some spots left, but once we're reached our capacity, we will say no more spots. So please, if you're thinking about coming, you want to sign up sooner rather than later there.
Yeah, come on down. I'd love to meet you all.
Yeah.
I see a lot of names and I don't always remember. I know I've had some phone calls where people call me up and say, "Hi, Don." And I'm like, "Hi."
Yeah.
I may not remember who you are, but I'm always here to help.
Yeah, this is definitely nice to put a face to the voice, and then also to the name for sure. So, well, it looks like we're not getting any questions, so I hope that was informative. Hopefully y'all learn a lot. Again, you can reach out to Don, you can reach out to your CSR, you can reach out to me, and we're here to help, and we just hope that we made everything easier for you. Thank you. Y'all have a great day. Take care. Bye.
See y'all.